Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Let's get it. Thursday night football, Jets, Texans, big time ball game. We're going to talk about it from the side, total, and prop perspective. There's a couple angles and storylines that I want to dive into more specifically from a statistical standpoint. So we're going to kind of go full circle here. Baseball's over. World Series is gone. Congratulations to the Dodgers and cheers to kind of a great season in the books. So we're going to be talking a lot more football, a lot more basketball, a lot more college basketball. MLB's out, and we have college basketball just sliding right in. Can't wait. One of my favorite sports to bet. So, but let's get into the NFL stuff. Guys, if you're new to the channel, it's a free platform, okay? Don't think of it as a subscription. Think of it as a follow. Give me a follow down below. Hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. That way you stay up to date with what's going on in the sports world and my best bets, all right? Also, we do have a Twitter X and a free Discord, and I am going to be kind of doing a little bit more funny stuff, and I am going to get into that Instagram world. So that's kind of part of the developing kind of path we're taking as we go down this road where we're still in year one. And I really thank you guys for getting us to where we've got to right now. Okay, but let's get into the picks because that's kind of why you guys are here, right? It's all about the picks. And we're going to look into Outlier here on this platform for the majority of our content. It's what I use to make all my bets. And quite frankly, it does make me a better. But let's switch up to this NFL. Okay. Just first, we're going to look into this game as we dive down. And you guys get to see all this premium content for free. So that's another reason why you should subscribe here to the channel. Okay. But we are seeing the money line, all right, set a little bit overwhelmingly in favor of the Houston Texans at 93%. We do get the spreads a little bit more balanced. The majority of the handle is taking the Texans with the points, and we do have a little bit more money on the over, okay, the over 41.5 versus what we're seeing here on the under conversely, okay. The spread's set at 1.5. We do have a total at 41.5, like I said. And quite frankly, I don't really understand why we have this game the way it is. This one baffles me. Okay. And you guys, if you guys have any insight and you want to know, let me know why. I just don't understand why all the love is on the Jets, right? The Houston Texans as a favorite, winning 8 out of their last 9 games. That's almost 90% as a favorite. And we could go even deeper in this. Okay. The Jets, they've covered 2 of their last 8 games against the spread at home. That's another great betting trend that I do like. I don't use betting trends as the end-all be-all. It's kind of like a tiebreaker, right? If you can't make your mind up and you want to bet the game, then I kind of lean into the betting trends. But something you have to understand within betting trends is if I know the betting trends, you know the betting trends, the odds makers know the betting trends as well. So keep that in mind. The under has also hit in 5 of the Texans' last 6 games versus the top 10 scoring defenses out there. So if you want to look at the under, primetime under spot, very profitable. But if you kind of been catching up to a little bit, we've been laying off of it because I have noticed what we've been flying over these totals a little bit in the primetime games. And we saw a lot. I think it was maybe even 3 of 3 between the Thursday, Sunday night, and Monday night football game that we had last week go over the total. But that's kind of where I'm at. We want to look at these teams and who's going to be available, kind of the storyline. The biggest thing going right now is the Jets, right? We have C.J. Mosley's going to be out. Lazard is out there. Ashton Davis, very important within that their depth for the Jets. He's going to be out. We have, the list goes on, right? Elijah Vera Tucker's out for the Jets as well, and we do have some other defenders that are really going to kind of impact that Jets defense. But I think on the Texans side of the ball, that's where it's really going to be a bigger storyline, okay? Because by all accounts, if you want to look into it, it's just going to be Tank Dell, okay? And you could tell a little bit what's going to happen within the Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins injury market. You kind of have to ask yourself, do the Texans rebound? And I think that's kind of the big storyline here is who's going to be available. We know that CJ Stroud, when he was absent Nico Collins, and his numbers dwindled very, very substantially. Okay. And now we look at CJ Stroud in this spot, and you want to look at kind of how he matches up. I was looking at some some information here, taking a deep dive, and this is kind of where we look into Pro Football Focus a little bit because I was actually shocked about his numbers. Right, it's over 222 and a half yards, 60% of the time. You look at some of the defenses he's played against, I don't really attribute that to anything of merit, and I think that's kind of where my issue is. And 331 against the Bills, yeah, that's great and awesome. 345 against Jacksonville. But then the injuries started happening, and you could see these numbers kind of fell off the board. He did flash against the worst defense in the NFL, one of them, the Colts, 245. But outside of the week four, and week five, in the last 5 games, I just don't, quite frankly, it kind of has a weird taste in my mouth within what CJ Stroud's been able to do. So call it a sophomore slump, call it what you want. He's just not top 5. Yeah, I mean, he's top 10 basically in a lot of categories. But I don't think you could see right now he grades out at 9 and 10 overall in terms of passing grades and in terms of attempts, touchdowns, passing yards. He's all top 10 in those metrics. But for some reason, it just doesn't come off and jump off at the page at me that he is actually balling in a way that I think he can carry this Texans team against the Jets here as they travel, on the road to go face the Jets in the spot. And that's kind of the issue. All right. That's kind of my issue I have with this. It's a tough spot for the Texans to play without with only Tank Dell, I should say, because he's going to be the one that's going to be available. So we are going to dive into that. Let's look into the prop market right now as we look into kind of where the numbers change. If you want to go back and look at kind of receiving yards for Tank Dell when we did not have that, that's how I'm going to do it. Okay. Right now you can see the over is set at 56.5. That is the kind of the stock number, if you will. And you can go back 2 games in the last 10 games. Numbers went up a little bit, but it's still not a line where I'm willing to jump into. Okay. He's going to be on Sauce Gardner's going to be on Tank Dell. It's going to be a completely one-dimensional, one side of the field kind of offense for the Texans. And that's kind of how I handicap this game. Okay. And when we look at kind of what the Jets are going to be able to do, you have to kind of understand something in the spirit of if we dive back into Pro Football Focus. Okay. That's kind of where if you guys know that the big take-home message right here. Okay, Stroud ranks 3rd in the NFL in a passing grade against man coverage, and the Jets rank 7th in man coverage rate. Okay, so we all know that, right? It's kind of actually stocked down on that Jets defensive secondary with, Sauce Gardner's been getting lit up by a couple wide receivers in the league, and now they have a different equation. Okay. They have to go into and host a Texans team where I think Sauce Gardner is going to secure one side of the field. I actually probably would lean towards the under with this Tank Dell number. I'm going to actually try to find this. Okay. Tank Dell receiving yards without Nico Collins. And you can see kind of what we're doing. I use StatMuse for that, guys, if you want to know more. Okay. Without Nico Collins, okay, Tank Dell in 2024, there's been 3 games and he's gotten a 35 and a 57 against New England. He had 7 receptions for 9 targets. And then obviously Indianapolis, 4 receptions, 4 targets, 35 yards. So I will give that out as a best bet. I'm going to fade Tank Dell. He is on 2 of my fantasy leagues. I do not mind betting him to score a touchdown. However, I think going against this vaulted Jets secondary, lower total, I'm going to go under Tank Dell, 56.5. You can also see that this number has the potential to explode. We did see a game last year where we all know Tank Dell. He gets over 150 yards against Arizona last year, but since then he has not really flashed. And this is a very profitable number, I feel like, as we look in kind of the storyline where when he has been the only receiver, it has kind of worked on the other side, except for the game against New England where he had 9 targets. Now, what I think the Texans are going to do in a game script kind of way of doing things, and this is why we're going to go dive back into Outlier, because I really love this kind of breakdown here within their matchup summary. Okay, so if you look at the bottom right of your screen, I'm going to move this so you guys can see it. Okay, if you look right where my mouse is on your screen, this is where we're going to see the Texans going against that Jets defense. Now, albeit that the Jets have a horrible record, the win-loss is bad. Let's look at some yards per play, 4.6. We're going to look at also another thing in this kind of arena that we're going to care about is passing yards. So the Jets defense has been shutting down opposing quarterbacks. And I think this is kind of where you could really dive into fading the public kind of narrative. Everybody's going to be like, okay, well, the 3-headed monster is Slade It's just Tank Dell. He's going to eat. That's not how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it going under Tank Dell. We're going to take that under 46 and 50. I'm sorry, 56 and a half. We're going to go under that number. And with props like this, if you are going to bet unders, unless there's a sharp movement where it's the trendy dog or the trendy under, usually you're better off waiting to up until game time where you can get a better number as the public will look to make all their same game teasers and enter the fold, taking the over in these spots. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am going to be betting the under Tank Dell in terms of a prop. Like I said, I'm not opposed to the same game or the anytime touchdown bet with Tank Dell. Just I don't really like him to get outside of the web from Sauce Gardner. Now that's going to lead you to the next question that is going on. Okay, so if we look at the Texans here by the numbers, and you want to really dive into it. Now, Joe Mixon, that is the game script. We do get a Dalton Schultz kind of opportunity as well, and I think that this is where Dalton Schultz could have an opportunity to do well in this spot. And I'm going to pull that up too because it is kind of a weird situation, but because I don't think that he's getting the love in Houston that he has without the likes of Dak Prescott. But you're able to see his numbers are starting to ramp up a little bit. We did see this for 3 games as well, the 3 games that Nico Collins has missed. 4 for 8, 4 for 6, 1 for 2. Okay. And this is interesting because in that game against New England, where you think of New England as a very stout defense, just run the clock out, kind of get out of there with a win. Between Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell, I think they had 16 targets combined. So there is enough to go around and feed those mouths. If you want to look into kind of some Dalton Schultz numbers, for me, in my money, it's not going to be worth it. I think it's a little bit not enough, a little too much variance, not enough wiggle room, and that's kind of how I like to bet props. Okay. As we look into kind of the narrative here within Dalton Schultz, receiving yards, you could look into it over the 24 and 24.5. That's kind of tempting. But for receptions, I kind of tend to favor receptions within it because tight ends get a lot of tight end screens that go for even negative yards sometimes. So over 3.5, yeah, that's right on the button. I'm not gonna dive in with that. It's juiced up to -162. So odds makers are counting on a big Dalton Schultz game. For me, guys, that's kind of crazy. And I'm gonna kind of check it out without it. Look in his game log, and you can see kind of right here for me. Yeah, I can't get there. I actually probably would lean going under, to be honest. But odds makers think he gets a ton of targets and he ends up with 4. So I probably would go under if we're going to get some plus money with that bet. Okay. Next, I do want to talk about the big one on the board, and we are going to kind of wrap this one up shortly. I'm going to go within the likes of Devontae Adams. Okay. And Devontae Adams, what I mean by that is I think this is where you saw last week. They really tried to get him involved. Even his debut, first play of the game, they just said, screw it. We're just going to show you guys that we're going to quit talking about it and just fully integrate him into the team. Okay. And this is kind of where I look at this as being, I guess, a little bit a better situation. Okay. Short week. You're going to go with what you know. And I think that Rodgers in that chemistry, that's going to be something where I look into that. Definitely having a role. Okay. Definitely having a role within kind of this storyline between the Jets and Texans. So for me, I think the best thing we can do with that is probably stay away until we see how this distribution is going to go within Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. I'm not going to bet it, honestly, either one way or another. If we want to bet it in game, sure. But I just don't think that it's a good proposition right now as we look into kind of what the Jets are doing and kind of in the whole mindset that that's a lot of mouths to feed. And not to mention, you're still going to give 7 targets to Breece Hall out of the backfield on any given night. Okay. A couple other things I do like. Braylon Edwards, Braylon Edwards. Shout out to the Browns. But anyways, Braylon Allen. If we want to dive into the Braylon Allen touchdown props, I'm going to pull that up really quickly. You can see kind of where we're at within the touchdown market, touchdown score. Okay, if you want to find Braylon Allen, good luck because he's going to be a little bit down, but that's a plus 440 proposition. So something that does interest me. he doesn't get a lot of work, but he does get in there. It's kind of not as much value as I thought it would be. But I think that the biggest storyline here is Joe Mixon. This is some crazy stuff, guys. Over the last six games, he has eclipsed 110 receiving and rushing. So if you do like some Joe Mixon tonight over -115, I'll be on board with that, rooting for him for fantasy purposes. So I do think that's a very kind of bet it till you lose it kind of bet for me. We've been riding Joe Mixon the whole season. And also the touchdown market for Joe is a very profitable one as well. We're going to look at that briefly, and you can see kind of where we're getting into. And I don't know why. I mean, he's going to score the first touchdown. So I don't know why they have him so far down the odds board. It's not even alphabetical order, but that's kind of where you look at -125, right about the upper echelon of what I'd like to play. But I do think that we have the potentiality for a little Devontae Adams first time, anytime. And that's kind of what I'm getting into. So Garrett Wilson, that is set at +195. A little bit kind of too much for me. Stephon Diggs out. Forget about that one. But we are going to look into kind of this narrative where I do think that we're going to see that little 5-yard out to the pile line that we've seen so much in Lambeau. Okay, so Devontae Adams over a half at +155. That will be my best bet to go along with Joe Mixon if we are going to get into the anytime touchdown markets. Like I said, outside of that, we are going to look into something. One more thing on the receiving front, okay, and then that's kind of where we're gonna segue into special teams, where I'll give you guys my complete rundown of best bets. And for this, guys, we are going to look into the Breece Hall. Okay, I think this is some good value. All right, Breece Hall over 4.5 at +130. Last game he only had one, so we are starting to see that little bit kind of change. And if you do think the Texans can get out in front in games where the Jets have to play catch up, it fits the bills. But in games that are going to be grinded out slow, we got to really work possessions, long extended drives. You don't really get the love out of the backfield. But in the game scripts that they do have to come from behind, Breece Hall lights it up from a passing perspective. The only thing that does scare me, though, is this game against the New England Patriots, 25-22. They needed to come back, and he only had one reception. So whether or not Braylon Allen is getting a little bit more work, that's kind of where I'm at. Personally, if I'm Breece Hall and I'm ready to sign some huge contract, I'm not trying to go out there and get hurt with a 2-6 team or whatever they are. The Jets are. I know it's a little bit early to be saying that, but these guys, you hear some of these podcasts and stuff, they do think about that stuff. Okay. But I do think that this is something where I'm going to stay away from this. I potentially might even go the under 4.5 in this spot. I'm going to do some more research. I want to see how Braylon Allen is going to be used in this spot. Because I do think he's starting to ramp up a little bit in terms of his expenditure of what they use him and how they use him on the football field. Okay. So that's the other thing that I would dive into, but I'm more Joe Mixon than Breece Hall in this game. And also, like I said, we're going to be fading Tank Dell under his receiving yards. I do like him a little bit for any time touchdowns. I do like Devontae Adams. I think he gets in today, as well as Joe Mixon. So those would be my touchdown bets. These are my prop bets. And I want to kind of segue into a bet that I think is a very, very smooth opportunity. Okay. And this is kind of where I'm going to go back into this game real quick, just to show you guys kind of what's going on. And this isn't going to be in the form of special teams. Okay. So if we look at kind of what we're doing, and they're not going to list that, so I apologize. So we're going to have to go right back to it. But this is where we're going to dive into the team props first. Okay. And team props, we're going to look for, or I'm sorry, game props, and we are going to look into total field goals. Okay. Over 3.5 field goals. Now, if we look at this from a betting perspective, for Houston, this has been 40% over on a cash rate. And on the Texans, on Houston's been 40%, and Jets it's been 40% as well. You can see one thing's for certain. It definitely does matter where they play. Today, it's going to be nice weather for my understanding. Houston's really starting to ramp up. That we have hit this 5, 4, and 5. I do think that the Texans offense will struggle a little bit closer to the red zone. So over 3.5 field goals is a very juicy proposition here. We are outside. That's going to be an issue, but over 3.5, it has not hit for the Jets. I think we can get at least 2 from the Texans. I think they're going to falter by the red zone. And then, as always, the Jets will deliver on this. So I think this number is right on the money. Minus 115. I am going to look into the over 3.5 field goals as one of my best bets for this game in terms of the prop market. So that about wrap it up. We did talk a lot of football. For me, guys, this is going to be a game that it's going to come down to the Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and I will give you guys kind of my insight on the side and the total. This is going to be something where the over or the under in terms of the 42 is going to be the best number you can find. If you can find a 42, I do lean towards the under. However, I am going to stay away from this game because this is where you look into kind of the Jets. They're absolutely at rock bottom. Okay. It's pretty much right there in front of us, guys. The Jets are 2-6 and 2-6 against the number, losing and not covering their last 5 games. This is a horrible situation for that ownership. Robert Saleh is out as head coach, and I think that was expected. But I just think this is a buy low spot on the Jets. If you are going to back this opportunity to get behind the Jets, this is your opportunity, because if they lose this game, I probably won't bet them the rest of the season. And I just really question. Houston plays a little tighter games, but if you want to talk about a kind of common opponents, the Jets just lost to the New England Patriots 25-22, and the Houston Texans at full arsenal were able to take out the Patriots 41-21 just a couple weeks ago. So it's kind of one of them things where for me, I don't really want to get too involved. This won't be a huge bet. I actually probably may bet more on the college football game tonight, to be honest. But I gave you guys my props I like. I'm going Tank Dell under over 3.5 field goals for the game. I am going to stay away from the yardages and any receptions for Breece Hall, or I would favor Braylon Allen more so to the over. I think he's going to get more run from here on out. They're really starting to change things up. I do like Devontae Adams, though. This is kind of where Rodgers says, screw it. Let's just go out there and play ball. They go back to the more backyard style of football, especially on a short week. He's getting comfortable. Okay, he's getting comfortable. If you want to check out some of the reception numbers and whatnot behind Devontae Adams, they're there for you guys to look at. But this is kind of where I lend towards a very big Devontae Adams anytime touchdown opportunity. Probably one of my favorite bets of the night. It may be the only bet I make, to be honest. I don't love the side or the total, but my initial read would be to go against the Texans here without their star receivers and that receiving core. As long as the Jets can shut down the run, I think the Jets get the best of them. So I would probably lean towards the Jets money line as well as the under in the spot. And obviously that's kind of where I'm going to be. So we did talk a little bit about this. This is a fun game. Enjoy it. Hope you guys all do well. Remember to subscribe on your way out. And let's go cash some tickets tonight on Thursday Night Football. We'll see you in the next video. Cheers.